Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unique, the concept album concert. Before we begin, please take note of any and all exits in whatever room you're in. The nearest exit may be in front of you, behind you, to your left, to your right, or in any corners. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please walk and don't run to the nearest exit. We'd also like to remind you that taking of photographs or video is strictly prohibited. Additionally, please take this time to turn off any cell phones, pagers, beepers, and other noisy electronic devices, and to unwrap any noisy candy wrappers. Lastly, after tonight, the concept album concert will be available to watch and share with friends, so please feel free to share the concert with everyone you know after tonight. Thank you for your cooperation, and we hope you enjoy the show.
To paraphrase theme song lyrics from a nostalgic cartoon, each person on Earth has their own point of view. No one thinks the same way, and every day is proof that it's true. If only you knew just what a person is going through. Then you get to know that person and not judge them for what you think you knew. I'm not a typical person by any means. I'm not as clean or as lean as what you worship on screen. I'm not like most people on Earth, but that doesn't deteriorate my worth. I can give birth to something new, an idea, an image, or anything that just requires the right bolts and screws. You probably don't even know what I've been through. My mind has always lived as if it were in an alternate dimension, where everything is beyond comprehension. I found it hard to pay attention to what people mention without even saying a word in comprehension, and yet I've always had the best intentions. There's never any guarantee that I'll get it right, even with all my might. I still screw up and feel a combined sense of self-spite and defeat. If I make my move, I can either prove my worth or end up dead meat. With everyone I meet, there's always the first impression. Will they react with open arms or with aggression? Will I be surrounded by community or oppression? What if the whole world knew that I deal with Asperger's, a form of autism? Would they respond with suppression? But I digress. This is way too much stress for anyone, I guess. Fortunately, nobody's alike. Just like snowflakes that float from the clouds, nobody's alike. Just like raindrops that plummet to the ground, nobody is alike. There'll never be another me. There'll never be another you. Each person I'll introduce you to is proof that everyone has a screw loose. Nobody I'll introduce you to is predictable or obtuse. Especially not me. And I'm going to show it. I'm an Aspie, and my friends don't know it. How will the world react when they know what's behind the mask? Will they think I'm a freak, or will they see me as I truly am, as unique?
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Unique, the concept album concert. I'm Daniel P. Weber, the writer, composer, and lyricist of Unique, a new musical. Before we keep going, I'd like to let you know that after every number, including that poem you just heard, I'll be interacting with you guys, telling you what each upcoming song is about. During these moments, I'll also be telling you about the different themes of the musical. Back to that poem you just heard. That poem is the very opening of the musical. It's when the protagonist, Josh, introduces himself to the audience, tells him about his autism diagnosis, and tells him about his goals and challenges in life. It also sets the stage for everything that's to follow in the full musical itself. Speaking of Josh, just so you know, I'm having two actors play the role of Josh, and so the second song you're about to hear, titled The World Will See, will be sung by the second actor who plays Josh. And during this song, Josh is frustrated with all of the misconceptions that people have about autism, whether they be misconceptions people have heard from movies or TV depictions, or just other bad or negative stereotypes or lies in general about autism. And so Josh wants to change the way that people think about autism or Asperger's or neurodivergence. All right, everyone, sit back, relax, and enjoy The World Will See.
If I ever told you about myself, you'd assume, based on what you've seen, that I'm a broken stereotype who appeared on a TV screen. You'd see me as helpless and out of touch with anybody close to my age. When people just can't seem to understand, could you be much more enraged? I want the world to know me as the individual that I am. If they act like they own me, they really just don't give a damn. Could anyone show compassion to a broken freak like me? Hell, maybe I'll make it right out and the world will see. The pencil's tip strikes the paper's skin, and my brain tells me what I should write. I'm trying the best that I damn well can, but I can't get everything right. My life is just like a game of chess, and I'm the pawn that's used. If I were to make my next big move, I could be crowned or I could be bruised. I want the world to know me as the individual that I am. If they act like they own me, they really just don't give a damn. Could anyone show compassion to a broken freak like me? I just have to conquer the beast, then the world will see. I accept each task at hand. I'll rise up and take a stand. Heroes always push right through. All machines have bolts and screws. I want the world to know me as the individual that I am. If they act like they own me, they really just don't give a damn. I'm not quite sure how I'll make it. Tell me, how can I be free? I've gotta be strong and pull through, and the world will see. The world will see. The world will see.
Okay, so you all know that Josh has a very exciting journey ahead of him. However, he also has a hell of a lot of obstacles to face on this journey. One of the biggest of these obstacles is his own inner critic. Now, everyone has that negative voice inside their head that tells lies about them, saying that they're not good enough or that they can't do anything right. In Unique, though, that inner voice is manifested as a physical, in-the-flesh character who appears on stage. With all of that said, here's the inner critic's number, Discarded.
You listen to me, Josh. I'm the voice inside your head and the head of your life. You will do exactly as I tell you. You know me well. I'll make your life hell if you reveal who you are. I won't play pretend, 'cause I'm not your friend. You'd best not make yourself look subpar. People will hate you and crowds will berate you whenever you make yourself seen or heard. I don't give a damn, 'cause I'm in command of all that happens in your world. You'll lose, you'll fail, you'll never prevail. You'll always be If you make a mistake, you're destined to be discarded.
I'm trying my best, my life is a mess, and everything's in rotation. I'm swamped by workload, which comes by the boatload, and everything's about expectations. You think you know the process and flow of how to live in society. You've made me feel dumb for all that I've done and given me needless anxiety. I'll lose, I'll fail, but I'll also prevail. You know I'm just getting started. I'll bleed, I'll break, but I've got what it takes. I'll never be discarded.
No one disrespects me.
You'll lose, you'll fail, you'll never prevail. You'll always be disregarded. You'll bleed, you'll break if you make a mistake. You're destined to be discarded.
That inner critic seems like a nightmare to have to deal with. Thankfully, Josh isn't going on this dangerous journey alone. He does have quite a few friends who help and support him on his path. Perhaps his best and most loyal friend is a girl named ALYSSA. She has yet to find out about Josh's autism diagnosis, but she already views him as a true friend. In fact, in one point in the show, the two have a heartfelt duet titled Everything I Wish I Gained.
I wander the hallways alone every day, not knowing who I can trust. Will I be alright? Should I just run away? When I make friends, who knows if they'll stay? Most of my days tend to feel like a storm. I find it so hard to adjust. People who pass me are hornets that swarm. I don't know how to hold on anymore. But everything turns on its head the minute he arrives and dethrones all my dread. I've trusted him for all these years, through all of the hurt and the pain. I don't know if he can ever see exactly how much he means to me. He's everything I wish I gave.
I brace myself for defeat and shame in case I lose in this fight. I try to push on, but each day is the same. My awkwardness is my claim to fame. A bludgeoning question pops up in my mind. Can I really do anything right? The crowd goes on, but I'm left behind, a shell of what could be humankind. But when she comes into my sight, I start to think maybe I'll end up alright. I've trusted her for all these years, through all of the hurt and the pain. I don't know if she can ever see exactly how much she means to me. everything I wish I gave.
I've trusted him for all these years, through the hurt and the pain. I don't know if he can ever see exactly how much he means to me.
She's everything I wish I gave.
He's everything I wish I gained.
She's
He's everything I wish I gained.
Isn't it so great to know that Josh has friends who will help him and support him on his journey? Additionally, something else that Josh finds very helpful, and something that he's really good at too, is writing poetry. In fact, during one scene, when Josh and ALYSSA are sitting on a park bench bonding with each other, Josh shares with ALYSSA a poem that he wrote in middle school. This poem is manifested in the form of a song called Far. Fun fact, I actually first wrote this song 4 years ago, and it was one of the first songs I wrote for the show. Without further ado, here's Far.
Would you like to come with me and see the world? I can show you places you've only dreamed of. If you trust your heart, then you can see your dreams unfurl. The continents and oceans are as vast as our skies above. Adventure never gives up on you, never for a moment. There's always something out there to see. Each moment is a stepping stone. It's up to you to own it. If you want, I'll let you come with me. We'll see forests greener than you can imagine. There we'll try to find a treehouse or two. Once we find one waiting near, we'll climb inside it, and we'll talk about the simpler times we knew. We'll see meadows filled with open space and fresh air. We can dance in all the daffodils there are. Then as night falls, we can lie amid the pastures, where we'll ponder life itself and watch the stars. We'll watch the stars. Who knows where we'll go, but we'll travel far. In the morning we can find a river flowing far and wide. We'll jump from rock to rock until we reach the other side. We'll find a shady rest stop hidden underneath the tree, where we'll write a bunch of poems charting everything we see. When the sun descends, we'll journey on the winding road ahead. We'll see if we can find some shelter just around the bend. We'll find a cozy cabin by the busy railroad tracks. That's where we'll rest until we can make our way back. We'll see forests greener than you can imagine. They'll surround our cabin, guarding us from harm. Every night we'll spend an hour in the moonlight, catching fireflies or gazing at the stars. We'll watch the stars. Who knows where we'll go? Who knows how we'll grow? Even I don't know. Where can I start? Who knows where we'll go, but we'll travel far.
Hello again, and you might be wondering why I'm wearing a different shirt than I was just minutes ago. Well, I had to make a quick costume change, that's why. But back on to the story. As you can tell, Josh loves writing poetry, and he's really good at it too. Later on in the show, he receives a little help from another friend of his named Barry to help make his writing and poetry even better. This all happens in a fun little ditty titled Rhyme and Reason.
As they say, there is no elevator to success. You gotta take the friggin' stairs. There are times when you just have to plow right through a mess, or you could end up unprepared. This also applies to write rhymes in your poetry. Building rhymes requires total focus and deadly aim. Be careful how you play the cards. Anyone can write a pair of words that sound the same, but here's what really makes it art. Real rhyming mastery doesn't just happen when you force out a generic rhythm the way every other pop lyricist does. If you find clever shortcuts, slingshots, and multiplications for your words the way that spoken word and slang poets do, your work will be flipped on its head. It takes courage and grit for a light to be lit. Ignite the cannon powder. You'll hear an explosion of drive and emotion. That's your superpower. Just as there are times and seasons when there's a rhyme, there should be a reason. Push right through it in due season. You'll emerge on top.
I never even had a clue of how much work it took to spin my rhyming into gold.
With some practice and persistence, you'll be off the hook, and then your poems will be bold.
It takes courage and grit for a light to be lit.
Ignite the cannon powder.
I'll hear an explosion of drive and emotion.
That's your superpower. Just as there are times and seasons when there's a rhyme, there should be a reason. Push right through it in due season. You'll emerge on top.
Of course there's a reason for the beating of my heart. Otherwise, how could I be alive?
Just try to use fresh blood and inject it into your heart. Before you know it, you'll have passion and drive.
Passion and drive. It takes courage and grit for a light to be lit. I'll hear an explosion of drive and emotion. Just as there are times and seasons when there's a rhyme, there should be a reason.
Push right through it in due season. You'll emerge on top.
Thanks so much for those tips, Barry.
No problem.
So as you can already tell by now, Josh does have friends who have his back and support him. Not only that, but one of Josh's teachers, Mr. Wright, also has his back. Mr. Wright, like Josh, is on the spectrum, and he tells Josh his story in a song titled The Passion I Had Inside.
I wasn't like the other kids who talked without stopping. My English grades were sky high, but my social grades were dropping. Nobody understood why I was quiet all the time. Was being shy and writing stories really such a crime? My writing skills got sharper, and I soon became much smarter. But hatred found a way, and so the bullies hit me harder. They shoved me into lockers, and they tried to gut my pride. But they could never obliterate the passion I had inside. I spent my days and evenings giving life to worlds of wonder. Their valleys and their mountains made an echo in the thunder. The warriors I dreamt of went to crack a cryptic code while doing battle up against the giants in the road. Then after they would face each tribulation and each hassle, they fought a final battle with the dragon of the castle. Believe me when I say the stakes had never been so high. The weapon of my choosing was the passion I had inside. My life's been like a game of dodging fear and shame and finding all the bright spots in the dark. The forks in the road make it hard to crack the code to nailing it out of the park. But maybe one day I'll leave my mark. Of course, I never knew that I was on the spectrum until I saw a psychologist. I always knew I was a weirdo, but when I received my diagnosis at age 25, I finally understood why. The only thing that's certain is that you can face the giants. You'll fight this war head on, dethroning all the wicked tyrants. Of course, it won't be easy. Life is not a simple glide, but you'll be armed and ready with the passion you have inside.
So now that we've met a few of the people who helped Josh on his journey, let's have a look at someone who serves as an obstacle for Josh outside of his inner critic. One of Josh's classmates, Eric, is extremely egotistical and self-centered. He seems to think that the only way to make friends is by being like everyone else, or worse, being a skirt-chasing chick scorer. He tries to deceive Josh into believing this in a song called Social Condemnation.
Dude, can't you take off your politically correct goggles and observe a typical high school setting? Guys have been scoring chicks since the 1950s. That's always been the freaking norm.
Life is so chaotic, ballistic and neurotic. How is there room to be unique? How can you function in life's psychotic junction if you're a socially awkward freak who needs individuality when chicks are begging for conformity? The life you live is a fight to survive. It's a war for domination. If you be yourself, you'll get eaten alive and face social condemnation. Take a look at the dudes who attract all the babes, then record your observations. If you screw it all up, you can bet you'll be maimed thanks to social condemnation. Listen to my theory, although it might sound dreary. As you've once heard nice guys finish last. If girls make you tremble, unleash your inner rebel, or else you're nothing but a spaz. Before you know it, girls will swoon. You'll be the ladies' man, not a moment too soon. The life you live is a fight to survive. It's a war for domination. If you be yourself, you'll get eaten alive and face social condemnation. Take a look at the bad boys who smoke all the weed, then record your observations. If you screw it all up, then you'll fall and you'll bleed thanks to social condemnation. No! You could try to get all A's, have a summer job that pays, or spend 4 years studying law at Yale. But in the end, when you look back, you'll end up feeling like a hack, and you'll be leaving behind regret in your trail. The life you live is a fight to survive. It's a war for domination. If you be yourself, you'll get eaten alive and face social condemnation. You'll be scoring chicks if you take my advice, and you'll be the next sensation. If you get it all wrong, then your ass will be diced. Thanks to social condemnation. Thanks to social condemnation. Condemnation. Yeah!
We get it, Eric. You're a troublemaker and a chauvinist. On a much more positive note, let's meet Josh's parents. Starting off with Josh's dad, Rob. Rob is a kind and caring father figure who has fond memories of when Josh was a kid. He reminisces about these times in a song called Ageless.
When you were 8 years old and I was 45, we knew just how to spend a Saturday. I always brought you with me as we went out for a drive. We'd get a bite to eat along the way. You'd get a burger with a tasty side of fries. The kids' meals always had a fun new toy. Those lunches always left you feeling fueled and satisfied. And that's just how I knew you were my boy. I love to think about those years that made us feel like pioneers. Adventure always turned the gears. Nothing felt too shapeless. Everything was ageless and serene. You loved to bike downhill when you were at the park. To you it felt like such a rush of power. And I could hear your laughter as you flew just like a dart. I cherished it with every passing hour. You looked like a superhero flying through the sky. Your smile always made me feel glad. Your t-shirt stole the show with its unique and bright design, with cartoon characters all looking, well, rad. I love to think about those years that made us feel like pioneers. Adventure always turned the gears. Nothing felt too shapeless. Everything was ageless and serene. And now look at you. Do you know how far you've come? It's crazy, but it's true. If you see what you've become, just take on the world, and you know you won't be nameless. You see what unfurls, and your life won't feel so shapeless. Everything will be ageless and serene.
Moving on to Josh's mom, Jane. Jane is obviously very well-intentioned, like every parent should be. However, she often finds it hard to connect with her son, and also, like every parent, she's bound to make mistakes once in a while. In the song The Story of His Life, she thinks about how much she truly loves her son and how much she really wants to improve their relationship.
I try to put some sense into his fragile mind, but sometimes all he does is run away. I don't know if he'll ever leave his fears behind. Each time it's like he always hits replay. He always tries to hide from this world's ugliness. Whenever things get hard, a fuse is blown. His happiness just falls into the nothingness. He feels like all his joy is overthrown. If only he could see that I try to be there for him and to supply, but sometimes I just won't get it right. I know I can't rewrite the story of his life. I don't know why I'm making all these clear mistakes whenever he reacts the way he does. I just can't help but feel that I don't have what it takes, since more often than not I lose his trust. If only he could see that I try to be there for him and to supply, but sometimes I just won't get it right. I know I can't rewrite the story of his life. I love him, but he just won't believe me, and deep down the feeling always grieves me. I don't understand why he perceives me as just uptight. It's fight or flight, day and night. If only he could see that I try. Of course he's different, but I know why. One day he'll maybe own the spotlight, and everyone will write the story of his life. I never would rewrite the story of his life.
Why don't we have a 7.5-minute intermission to process what we've seen so far? I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the concert. As you can tell, I've made another costume change. Not only that, but a lighting change also occurred, because that's something else that happens a lot in the world of theater. Okay, so the next poem you're about to hear is the Act 2 opener. Much like one of the songs you heard earlier, The World Will See, this is another moment where Josh expresses his outrage with stereotypical representations of his condition. Speaking of which, I'd like to reiterate something I've stated on my Instagram page, and also to let you know if you haven't heard already. When casting this concert, I made sure to cast autistic and neurodivergent actors as autistic and neurodivergent characters. I made every effort necessary to avoid making the same mistake that Sia made with her movie. With that said, enjoy the Act 2 intro poem.
What if the whole world knew that I deal with Asperger's? Would they think I'm insane? Although concealing my diagnosis makes me feel restrained, revealing it can feel like yelling fire while on a plane. How can I explain to you that there's nothing wrong with my brain? It's beyond draining to process how little progress our society is making. I can't stop shaking when I think of the movies Hollywood is making. The kinds that try to represent my condition, but they know they're faking. All the Rain Men and curious incidents in fiction trick you into thinking they're full of conviction, when really they just add to the festering tradition. Do the courts and entertainment have any jurisdiction over the stories that fail to portray my condition? People think my so-called affliction makes me stupid or needs a cure. How can I endure these assumptions that make me feel insecure? How does my diagnosis make me impure? People's premature generalizations always add to my frustration. It seems as though imagination is deemed a crime, punishable by social condemnation. The world's population is under the indoctrination of societal expectations and horrendous media misrepresentation. The infestation of our culture's norms has been formed in our heads with no hope of reform. It's like there's a gathering storm that ravages the lives of those who refuse to conform. I pass by swarms of people every day, not knowing if everything will be okay, not knowing what to expect on any given day.
Let that poem be a lesson and a helpful tip for any aspiring writers and filmmakers. If you're creating a project about autism or any other disability, have autistic or disabled artists involved. As an autistic myself, I should know. Now let's change gears to one of the other important themes of the show, disclosure. Throughout the story, Josh is unsure whether or not to disclose his diagnosis to any of his friends. As he mentioned in the poem you just heard, he feels restrained by keeping it to himself, but he's also very terrified to reveal it in fear of being rejected. At one point in the musical, Josh is unfairly outed when his disability is revealed to all of his peers. Thankfully, though, his close friend ALYSSA, who I mentioned earlier, comes to his rescue. Not only does she accept him for who he is entirely, but she also opens up to him about struggles that she went through. This all unfolds in a poignant ballad titled Anchor.
I accept you 100%, and you never ever have to be sorry for being the person you are. I've always known you as a true friend, and I would never think any less of you. Since we've become so close over the years, you can tell me anything. Always. My world had danger and fear. I was bullied year after year. Although I looked pretty lean, I wasted money on jeans. I starved myself every day. My body grew thin and frayed. It just made everything worse. felt like I was a curse. I felt submerged underwater with an anchor tied to my heels. I lost control of myself and my world, and refuge didn't seem real. In high school, you arrived and finally came into my life. You saw me curled in a ball, walked over and gave it your all. You asked if I was okay, and since that life-changing day, you've always stuck by my side. You filled me with warmth and with pride. I felt submerged underwater with an anchor tied to my heels. It felt as if my demise was at hand, till refuge was finally real. What you might not realize is how much you've opened my eyes the moment you saw me in my strife. You actually saved my life. You may be where I was then, but this is far from the end. There may be those who will judge. Some people may hold a grudge. They'll never know you at all. They'll never rise any taller. I'll always stick by your side. You know there's no need to hide. Just know that these words are true, and that I love you. When you feel submerged underwater with an anchor tied to your heels, just know that refuge is nearing, and you won't be hurt by what's real. You won't be hurt by what's real.
That ballad comes to show how there are always people who will support you no matter what. Now, I'd like to backtrack to what I said earlier about how much Josh loves writing poetry. Throughout the course of the musical, we see him as he attends meetings at his school's poetry club as they prepare for an upcoming poetry competition. At the competition, the entire club presents a group poem about what it's like to be bullied and abused. The group poem also reminds us that there's always help whenever you need it. This poem is manifested in a poetry song hybrid titled "We Will Not Be Silenced." This is another one of the first songs I wrote for the show, and it was partially inspired by the #MeToo movement.
We will not be silenced. We will not be silenced.
For too long, people have been victimized, traumatized, dehumanized, and nobody even realized. Voices have been silenced by atrocities and violence, and nobody did a thing.
I've been through hell, in case you couldn't tell. It's impossible to even spell the suffering and the pain, as hard as the rain falling onto my chains. The monsters haven't yet been slain.
A predator hunts its prey day after day, and I'm that prey. Why do things have to stay the way they are? I've been hit hard. You've played the cards until they left me scarred.
We're living in the trenches of war, and what for? We're being treated like filth and nothing more. People constantly claim it's in the DNA, but today's the day when we say, this is never okay.
In this day and age, nobody can escape rage. It's like a cage, but the key is harder to find. It makes people blind to their actions and to others' reactions. It derails from the tracks.
The silence of the victims is ear-splitting, yet no one is admitting that the perpetrators don't deserve acquitting. Action needs to be taken so nobody will ever be forsaken.
The pain we feel is obvious. It's long past time we all discuss the problem that we face at hand. It's long past time we took a stand. Oh.
I've seen all you've been put through. I've seen the pain that you've known.
Know that I'm here to help you. Know that you're never alone.
There's always one who will listen.
There's always one who will care.
There's always someone to lean on.
There's always someone who's there.
As for those who've caused you pain,
All their power will be slain.
they will get what they deserve. For each part of you they hurt, we've had our share of pain and despair. We've been subjected to violence. We'll raise up our voices and drown out the noises to show that we will not be silenced. 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 We will not be silenced.
In addition to the group poem, this poetry competition also has a solo poem division. Not long after the poetry club finishes performing their group poem, the climax of the musical ensues as Josh appears on stage and presents his solo poem to the audience. This poem is about the struggles he goes through every day with his inner critic and is titled The Voice.
In our minds, there's a voice that's as loud as an explosion. It causes emotional corrosion, an absolute erosion in self-worth, and a gradual decline in mirth. It doesn't even begin at birth, it begins just before adolescence starts. It stops human hearts and tears people apart. Don't even get me started. It preys on both the content and the broken-hearted. It goes on until the victim is past and departed, until they've died from being disheartened. Whether they're an athlete or an artist, even when they're the smartest, the voice is too heartless for them to tarnish. And then suddenly, bang! The victim disappears and succumbs to the voice. Fear, anxiety, and guilt are the voice's weapons of choice. It's more than just white noise. Nobody can rejoice. Nobody has a choice. The voice picks its poison and then suddenly, bang! It's over. But this isn't how it has to be. If only you could see that there is a way to victory. There is a way to freedom from this form of misery. You can even make history and leave a legacy. It all starts with victory. It all starts when you defeat that voice by using your own voice and making some noise. You can either let the voice defeat you or you can defeat it. It takes courage and grit for a light to be lit. You don't have to fall to the pits of loss. You may bear a cross, but hope is never lost. You're never defined by what undermines you. It's your fine features that define you. Maybe one of these days you'll look back on when the voice used to attack you. You'll fight back and rise from the cracks that once held you back. Then, in one big defining moment, it'll be up to you to own it. It'll be up to you to show that voice that you're never through. You wait for the right moment to finally own it. The climax arrives. You fight for your life. You fight what once deprived you. As the voice draws its sword towards you, you draw yours towards it. You muster up the courage and grit and get ready for the light to be lit. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bang!
This brings us to the conclusion of the story. Josh has finally won in the battle with his inner critic, and so he encourages the audience to follow their dreams and to fight the demons preventing them. In the musical, this is known as the Epilogue. With that said, this is the official end of the concert. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and that you might have learned something too. Before we go, I'd like to make a couple of statements. First of all, be sure to check out my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages, all of which I've left in the description. Second of all, I'd like to suggest that you donate to the following organizations, all of which are run by people with autism or Asperger's. There's the Autism Self-Advocacy Network, also known as ASAN. Then there's Autistic Inclusive Meets, or AIM. Then there's the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, also known as the AWN Network. Then there's Autistics for Autistics, or A for A. Finally, there's Unified Spectrum, an online retailer where all of its products are made by adults with disabilities. Alright, thank you all so much again for watching. Please continue to support Unique and its mission, and stay awesome!
Before I let go of the mic, I'll reiterate that nobody is alike.
The stories of everyone you just met, the tales of those who paid the debt, the anecdotes of those who aren't finished yet, are what I hope you'll never forget. You are loved, you are valid, and you are necessary. Don't settle for secondary, because your story will be legendary.
Some will give you the hairy eyeball and tell you that you can't win. They'll claim that you belong in the bargain bin, but really they don't know you from within. There's a way to victory. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're destined for mediocrity. You always have a chance to be the change you wish to see.
Even Aspies like myself can leave their mark. They can light a spark, fight from the heart, and fight alongside those who've had it hard.
Do you hear them singing the songs of the outcasts and those whose minds move beyond fast, their ideas blasting from the abyss at long last?
Blasting from the abyss.
It's the music of those who go against the grain. They won't be chained to their constant pain. The monsters will finally be slain.
You won't be chained to your constant pain. The monsters will finally be slain.
But does this mean life will be perfect? No. As you may know, there will be more painful blows. And just when you've outran the ebb and flow, the voice in your head returns to deliver the blows.
But if you look back on your experience with fear, your experience with doubt, your experience with shame, your experience with guilt, if you look back on your experience with life, you can let go of the strife, win the fight, and ignite the light to make wrongs right.
Ignite the light to make the wrongs right.
You've seen the journeys of unique individuals, all of whom have principles and stories that are far from fictional. To paraphrase Maya Angelou, people will forget the things you say and do, but they'll never forget how you've made them feel. That's a timeless truth.
If you ever feel like a freak, if you ever told that you're weak, don't listen to those lying critiques. There will never be another you, because you're an antique. No matter what, you're unique.
Would you like to come with me and see the world? I can show you places you've only dreamed of. If you trust your heart, then you can see your dreams unfurl. The continents and oceans are as blue as our skies above. Adventure never gives up on you, never for a moment. There's always something out there to see. Each moment is a stepping stone. It's up to you to own it. If you want, I'll let you come with me. We'll see forests greener than you can imagine. There we'll try to find a tree house or two. Once we find one waiting near, we'll climb inside it, and we'll talk about the simpler times we knew. We'll see meadows filled with open space and fresh air. We can dance in all the daffodils there are. Then as night falls we can lie within the pastures. Then we'll ponder life itself and watch the stars. We'll watch the stars. Who knows where we'll go, but we'll travel far. In the morning we can find a river running far and wide. We'll jump from rock to rock until we reach the other side. We'll find a shady rest stop hidden underneath a tree, where we'll write a bunch of poems charting everything we see. When the sun descends, we'll journey on the winding road ahead. We'll see if we can find some shelter just around the bend. We'll find a cozy cabin by the busy railroad tracks. This is where we'll rest until we can make our way back. We'll see forests greener than you can imagine. They'll surround our cabin, guarding us from harm. Every night we'll spend an hour in the moonlight, catching fireflies or gazing at the stars. We'll watch the stars. Who knows where we'll go? Who knows how we'll grow? Even I don't know where I can start. Who knows where we'll go, but we'll travel far.